I'm Jane. I'm honored to be a part of the League of Women Voters Advocacy Juvenile Justice team. And we are a nonpartisan voter education organization encouraging informed, active participation in government. While the League does not support candidates nor parties, we do take positions on issues we have studied. Our programs will not necessarily represent these positions, but provide forums to increase understanding of public policy issues. So stay with us for a few minutes this morning while we hear about Supportive Connections, a wonderful program in Washtenaw County. I want to welcome Karen Field and Jonathan Lay. Please know that we're thrilled that you're here. And I do know that Supportive Connections is very, very new, but let's hear about it. Welcome to our chat.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us. Yes, Supportive Connections is the City of Ann Arbor's new deflection program. And what that is we're a program with the goal of keeping people who are at risk of becoming involved or re-involved or even further involved with the criminal justice system from doing so. So the focus is on people who have needs for social services, such as mental health services, substance abuse, others, services to be able to help them not go back into the system or not become further involved in the system. So that's that's our mission, that's our focus. We've been open for referrals for about a month now, and taking referrals from the community. We are we are from the city, but we are not court-based or police-based, so all our referrals come from within the community. So it's not, how I describe it is that we have a lot of diversion programs going on within our area, and diversion being if someone gets involved with law enforcement or the courts, if they complete a program or do probation or do, there's things that they're asked to do, and in return they're not charged or the case is dismissed or reduced or whatever it may be, and it's tied into the justice system already. So those are diversion programs. And they're kind of carrot stick programs. Our program is voluntary. So if someone does not want to do it, they are not forced to do it. But at the same time, we provide the services that people need. We are looking to not step on any toes of existing programs. We want to work with what's already around in our community. We have some great resources, but we want to look to help fill in the gaps. So we do have some funding for things such as to help pay for mental health and substance abuse treatment. We have some limited of money for related to housing expenses, and I say that because it's very limited, and it's not just for, it's kind of tied into the people that we may be already working with to maybe help with security deposits or housing applications or things that are in need that way. So we're not just a resource for those kind of things, because housing is a big issue and it's beyond what our program can quite frankly do. So we have those things. We have money to help provide identification, transportation, whatever somebody may need to be in our program. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. When I say community referrals, we get referrals from everybody. It can be a parent saying my child is having issues and I'm concerned they're going to be out here. It can be a situation where even, if law enforcement or police or fire go out there and they see the situation where it's not anything that someone's going to go to the hospital for, but maybe it's something they may need a referral on. So we can work with those agencies as well. We're not court-based, but the court can refer people that are maybe doing the mental health court, and they're limited. Mental health court has limitations in the fact that, someone can only be on probation for a limited amount of time. Or if they're not complying, they have to release them. And those might be people that could use some additional support, and they could be referred to our program. So they can come from all resources. We've had people from business associations refer to us and say, hey, we have this person that's sleeping in our, we believe they're sleeping outside our business tonight. Is there something you can do about it? Can you refer, and we can outreach. There are people that are going to tell us to take a hike, and they already have. But we can be the follow-up and be there and just let people know that we're out there if they're ready and have the need, that we are here to help direct them in a way.
How does the average parent or average business know about you?
Things like this. We're getting the word out. We have a web page. I'll ask Jonathan to put in there. We're on the City of Ann Arbor. We have a2gov.org, and it's /supportive connections is our web page. On that, it has information about the program, and there's a referral form. we've been providing our referral for, we have a larger referral form we've provided to social service agencies. So we're just trying to get the word out. We're refining it. We'll do a little more press or things like that to get things out, but we are trying, just gradually. We sort of did a soft opening for referrals among the social service agencies we've had contact with, and so in the first month we've received 12 referrals.
Go ahead, Carolyn.
So you just existed for 1 month now?
Yes, we've actually been up and running for 1 month. I started the very end of July. I previously worked for the county and came to the city to do this program. And I started the end of July, and Jonathan started with us in September, and we started taking people referrals November 2nd.
And how many have you had?
We've had 12 referrals, and we have 2 people that we are kind of currently actively working with right now.
So sorry, somebody else want to ask a question? This is amazing. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and there's we've had some referrals where it was just, one was a referral and they just needed some help with transportation and a gas card. So we were able to do that and close out the file. So it wasn't a long-term case management thing. A lot of our cases are just going to be sort of referrals. We help you, pass you on, or give you what you need. And then, you go work with the people you're continuing to work with.
So the referrals, though, in relationship to Harvey's question about how do people get to know this, most of the referrals will be from people observing another person in stress or in distress or something of that sort. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
Not from the court. It could be the court, you're saying, though. Could.
Yeah, so we've gotten if there's echo, by the way, I'm sorry, we're sitting right next to each other. We've gotten several referrals from a lot of resources, whether it's individual shop owners, family members. We've gotten one referral that was actually just a self-referral. And then some of them we are partnering with law enforcement and the courts to say, hey, these people don't fit into our programs or they're finished with our program, but could continue to have some support, and they would self-strive in order to keep them on a positive trajectory. So that's really where a lot of it's coming from, is mostly those community referrals and people saying, hey, I've got this person in my life that I think could use some help. I like to say that we've all got that one aunt that if she just had a social worker or somebody to hold their hand in order to get connected to services at some level, I'm that aunt.
Yeah, we even had a case, like we worked with an agency that they had a client that was stranded just out of county and needed some help with transportation to get back to the county so they could get services and get help, because so many things are tied, by boundaries and things. And we were able to help that agency get that person back here so that they could get the services. So we weren't working directly in providing the services that another agency was, but we were able to help them. And other agencies offer to help us with things that we may need. And we're kind of trying to establish reciprocal relationships with some agencies. But we do have, like I said, funding to pay for things such as if someone, a lot of insurance will cover things like that people may need, like substance abuse treatment, residential even, but they don't cover things like transitional housing, which helps someone to be more successful and long-term in with substance abuse issues. And we have money to be able to help with that. So we do have some funding that can help provide some of these gaps. So that's why we're trying to get the word out among, agencies and people in the know. And like Jonathan says, we may get referrals from police and court, but we're not tied to them and we're not reporting to them like we're not testing someone for the court or doing anything like that. That's not the kind of program we are. So
I was thrilled to hear that you take referrals from all over the community. Does that mean all over the county? Because I feel strong that the folks who need the most help are on the eastern side of our county, and yet you're funded by the city of Ann Arbor.
And that's where we have to kind of have at least a connection to the city of Ann Arbor. Now we're trying, and we say connection, we kind of broadly define that. So if it's someone who is currently living in the city of Ann Arbor, and it doesn't have to be permanent, you can be in the shelter, living in a park, on the street, staying with a family member, or you could be, having a house here in Ann Arbor. It's a very broad description of working in Ann Arbor. So if you're working in Ann Arbor, obtaining some source of income from Ann Arbor, so it can even be panhandling on the streets of Ann Arbor, then, we will do that. And if you're an adult ed in Ann Arbor, or you have a child in the Ann Arbor schools, so the schooling ties. So we tried to broadly define a connection to Ann Arbor, but we have to have that. So if it's someone who's always in Ipsy, works in Ipsy, never leaves Ipsy, then, or Chelsea or whatever it may be, then they're probably not the person for us. But we can refer them to other resources. We have one man, and we just have to establish a connection. We have one man who's kind of having some issues, and he was going to go to the shelter, and we thought if he goes to the shelter, then we can help him. But he's been basically Ipsy based his whole life. But we thought if we can at least get him a little connection to Ann Arbor, we'll be able to help. If not, then we'll refer to other resources.
Fantastic. That is so cool. Because if it's not broadly defined, then it's not going to work to help those kids that need
Right.
you so much. This is so fantastic.
Yeah, so we tried to broadly define Ann Arbor because we are Ann Arbor's paying our bills, we are based on the city. We have to have a little connection right now, but hopefully it'll be something that we can look at if we see there's a need. But there are other people out there we've been able to refer to, and other people doing some good and similar work.
In the end, though, my end goal is to connect people to the services where they can, and get them to other people who can do the long-term case management. I'll take on clients where they're slightly more complicated and need a little more management in their services to coordinate things on a broader picture. But if they're going to fit in better with say CMH or Dawn Farm for long-term work, I'd rather connect them to free up my plate to be able to grab more people where I can.
Yeah, as of right now, Jonathan and I are the program. So Jonathan is the case manager, and I like him if I don't want to kill him with work at the moment. So
Where?
Of those 12 referrals, have any of them come from the police, or do you take referrals from the police?
we do take referrals from the police. Why we're not police based, and they're not part of our regular kind of team. We do take referrals from them because they're in a position to be out there and say, this is someone who needs some help, and I've seen them, and is there something you can do? So we do take referrals from them.
And none of the referrals that we've gotten from law enforcement, I think there's only been 2, but it's not in lieu of arrest or any punitive action. This is a person I've identified that needs some help, and they're starting to slip or decompensate, or they're just at risk in general. Can you help them find that balance? So it's not an either or.
Is there any connection between what you're doing in the supportive connections and kids in the foster care system? I was just curious about that.
There's not currently, no. My previous job, for 23 years, I was a prosecutor. I was involved in some restorative justice efforts, and my last job was in juvenile. And so I retired from that to take this job. And I love that job. And so that's my connection still to kids, is my, as helping foster kids in my personal extracurricular life. But there's not a connection other than the fact that I think a lot of kids in care, sometimes they're at risk when they become adults. So, I think there's always some kind of connection. Kids are sort of my thing, I'd like to see, expanding services to kids someday in this program. But right now the focus is on adults, just because of, the legal issues and the issues of where you start is with the grownups. But
Interesting. Thank you.
So also I'm wondering, there's an unarmed response project going to be, would you be related to that? Because if it's unarmed response, would they then refer to you if they find that it's not really needed to have the justice system involved?
right, yeah, right now we're not directly tied into the unarmed response. That's a totally separate thing. I think there's a potential for us to be able to work with that, because unarmed response will be out there we're not an emergency response team. So if we get a referral, we say we're going to respond to that and handle it within 5 days, but we're not be able to go out there immediately as they call us. That would be more of an unarmed response team, and there are people doing that. So we are not an emergency sort of situation, but I think there's a a chance if someone unarmed response goes out and someone goes to, say, the psychiatric emergency, and maybe the hospital doesn't keep them, what do they do the next morning? You know, and we can be a follow-up maybe for that, to be a referral for that, because they're going to be very busy handling the emergency stuff. And I think there's a way that we can work with that. That hasn't been discussed yet, but in my mind, you know, long-term, I think that there is a possibility to be able to work with that together. So
Karen, you mentioned restorative justice. Can that be woven into this program? Because that's just so powerful as a powerful tool to have.
I think
groups
it's,
or-
yeah, no, I think in some ways we are a restorative justice program, because we're looking at people that have been in that you know, hopefully the people that have been in that revolving door to kind of keep it from happening. You know, we're not directly restorative justice in the fact that we're not justice system based, and we're not, you know, doing, you know, people that have been necessarily in contact with things. How we deal with people that are currently in the justice system, it may be the bail project, or the public defender has somebody who's out on bond and they're worried that they're going to end up back in jail because they continue to drink, or they continue not to get mental health problems. We can help or not mental treatment, we can kind of help coordinate with them for some things. So we're working with the public defender's office and their social worker and other programs that way. But you know, I think so it all starts keeping people, as much as we can keep people out of the system is always good. So we're kind of the step, you know, before the restorative project, because we haven't, you know, we're hopefully going to prevent, long-term goal would be to prevent people from getting arrested.
And the name of the game is stability. Like, and for those individuals that are already in contact with law enforcement, we've got them. They're on a bail, they're on probation, and they've got certain criteria that they have to meet. But if they get to that desperate situation where they feel they have no choices, we can step in and have to say, what do we need to do to keep a roof over your head so you're not violated that way? What do we need to do to get you a job and keep it stable and sustainable so you don't get violated that way? What do I need to do to keep your hands busy so you don't get into trouble to keep you from violating that way? So while we work with them, we're not the primary observers or the reporting party to the court. I'm not taking the place of probation by any means. We're there to help support probation in ways that they can't just do it on their own.
Great.
Let me ask a political question, if I may. If you've been underway for about a month, then you were set up by the city council before the last election last month, and now the city council composition has changed. Is there who champions you in the city council? Where is your political support, and has that been changed by the election in any way that just happened a month ago?
I don't think so. I don't know. How about that? For a vague answer. I came in after this was already, there was a person who championed this program and was kind of the architect of the resolution and worked it through. I came in to kind of be the contractor to make this architect's dream sort of come to fruition. We are directly under the city administrator's office, so our program is directly under Mr. Doheny, and so he would be the one that kind of is I think our 4-star champion, and he's the one I report directly to. So our program works directly under him. So we're not part of the city attorney's office. We're not part of, we are under him, and it was, so I think I think there's a lot of, just between us, I think there's support for all kinds of efforts with the new city council as well. So I don't, as far as I know, we've talked to them, but as far as who's supporting and championing, I don't know. And I would hope it's going to be a good enough program where they all will.
Good.
And we have seen a broad spectrum of support from a lot of people within the city administration, not even just the administration office, but the global city functions. So I'm not overly concerned about that, to be honest.
So going back to Jane's question, though, so do you know if Ypsilanti City has anything comparable?
They're doing different efforts. I know that the sheriff is doing a program called LEAD that's law enforcement based, and they're working with community mental health on that. And that could, they may go countywide on that. They're currently in Ypsilanti Township. So we've been in discussions with them. We're not in competition with them. So it's like, they're funded through the mental health millage and that program that way. We are funded through the marijuana tax that the city of Ann Arbor brings in, some of that money. And not all of it. We get a little portion of that. But so we have different funding sources, different sort of things. And so we're not in competition. And if we have people that we think would benefit from that program, we're going to refer them to them. So, but I think there's different efforts that are out there countywide. That's why we're just trying to get out here and get the word out among different programs. And every day I learn to somebody new and I try to reach out to them. And, I have a list of people I have to send emails to now that we're going to reach out and just sort of discuss. So we all know that we're out here. So it's going to be, I think, open line of communication is the best thing. We're not here to take anyone's jobs or whatever. However we can supplement is great. And we're going to develop, we're probably start after the first year, a team approach of the people that are actually we're contracted to work with, that are part of our team, and to kind of discuss the participants and where we can go on that and what referrals we get. So right now we're contracted with Dawn Farm and the shelter, and I'm working on some the public defender, and we're working on a few more people to have as part of our regular team, in addition to our whole resource list.
That's fantastic. It's just so great. I'm thrilled about this. I'm thrilled about Supportive Connections. Jonathan, some of what you said was echoing because you're sitting in the same room. But do tell us a little bit about yourself, because we know what Karen did previously for 23 years, but we don't know about you. You're not that old to have 23 years of experience.
That's very kind of you, and I appreciate that. Don't let the gray hair fool you. I paid for it the hard way. Life. So my background is I've actually got 20 years programming, development, and nonprofit experience, going all the way back. Sort of what I've always done. More recently, though, I used to be a program developer for Affirmations and for the YMCA in Metro Detroit. Following that, I went back and got my VSW again, and ended up working with CMH for a while. I worked with Neighborhood Service Organization in Detroit for permanent supportive housing, working with the homeless population there. Then I moved on to Children's Protective Services, where my paths crossed with Karen, and she ended up pulling me out from there, rescuing me in some ways, because it's a tiring job. That it's necessary, the necessary evil, but oof, does it wear on you? So Karen really brought me back to my program developing roots, and figuring out the nuts and bolts and the different forms and the ways to procedurally do things so that it stays smooth, is really where my love lies, in figuring out what needs to happen to make a program function. So I think it was Susan who asked if we actually go out and do the dirty work in the streets that we do. It's Karen and I as the whole program, and I'm the one, for the most part right now, who goes out and like I was out till 7 o'clock last night looking for a couple of people on the street, trying to find them, and connecting with them there. Karen fills in on where we can and where I need to in order to help out. But she takes care of more of the legally challenged cases and helps out there, because the courts are definitely not my expertise when it comes down to that. So
and I'm not a social worker, so
They make a good team.
our office conversations get very interesting, I assure you.
But we will definitely spread the word and get this out to all of our channels. We hope so much that you have success and continued funding, whether it comes from the marijuana situation or where your funding comes from, but we're thrilled that you're there, and it's so needed and so necessary. We really, really are happy about this program. We will spread the word for sure.
Well, thank you. In the chat, I did put both our email address, the website, our direct phone for the program itself, and then the most updated referral form, which can just be emailed to us if you need to, by all means. I will also drop our direct emails in the chat as well before we sign off.
Let me just say, it's a really nice referral form. It's nice and simple. You've got your message at the top, and it's easy, as far as I can tell, for somebody to fill it out. So
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, the idea, not geared to social workers or necessarily, or people with that background, just anybody that might want to do a quick referral and not be burdensome.
But
And all our referral, so people know, the people that refer people to us. So should it be like, say, a mother's son is decompensating, she doesn't want him to know that she was the one who referred him. They remain anonymous. We know who they are, and we may reach out to get some information from the referral person, but we're not going to ever say to anybody, hey, your mom told us you're having problems, or hey, the police called on you, or hey, you know, your CMH worker wants us to make sure you get some bus tokens, or whatever it may be. So.
Great. Well, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for both of you coming and being with us.
Thank you so much.